Have you ever been in a situation where you were trying to do the right thing? You were trying to make everything better, but somehow you ended up making things a lot worse? Or have you faced a no-win decision? You know, when you thought you were doing what's best, but no matter what, you ended up hurting somebody? All of our decisions have consequences, and a lot of times we don't know what these consequences are until we've made that decision. Sometimes it's no big deal. Other times it could be catastrophic. But while playing Dragon Age Veilguard, you will come across a lot of these situations. Your decisions could allow a demon to escape, it could kill a friend, or it could completely destroy a town, resulting in thousands of innocent people being killed. That's just one aspect, though, of Dragon Age Veilguard, and honestly, maybe one of the more bright spots. But let's just get into it and talk about everything that is Dragon Age Veilguard. Before you do that, though, please hit that like and subscribe button and help me grow this channel. It means the world to me and doesn't cost you anything. And just sort of a side note here, by the way, for my own benefit, I'm just gonna say Dragon Age from now on, but you guys know which game I'll be talking about. If I reference the older ones, I'll let that be known. Anyway, in this game, you start off creating your own character, and I think ultimately it already starts off a little controversial, and there are certain things in the character creation that I'm not exactly sure why they're in there. Well, and I don't want to get too non-PG, but there is some stuff where I'm like, why are they even asking this? What does the size of that matter? And if you know what I'm talking about, you know. Yes, there's other games like Cyberpunk that does that, but it sort of makes sense because, well, there's some reference to it. In Dragon Age, I don't know why, but they do want to ask you some personal questions about the character you're creating, as well as some other issues. But for the most part, my only complaint with the character creation is the lack of proper mohawk. I mean, there is a mohawk in the game, but it's not a proper one. You know, there's no spike to it. It's fluffy and kind of unkept. Like, it looks like my hair before I actually get ready to leave, like right when I wake up. But it's fine. It is what it is, and even though I feel like that hairstyle itself has a deep, rich history, far more than, like, I don't know, highlights in a bob cut. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, if you go so deep as to customize the size of a character's genitals, why can't I get some pomade up in here? I don't know. Anyway, after you create your character with your subpar mohawk, you then choose your class, and there's a few different ones you can choose between, ranging from melee to magic users, and then each one of those also has like 3 different classes you can choose from once you actually choose your character. And it's not just melee and magic, by the way. You have the option to basically choose like a tankier role or a rogue character, a magic user, all sorts of stuff like that. But the more important thing is once you actually choose your character, you can then really dial down into their specialty. You see, when you level up, you'll be adding points to their skill tree, and there's 3 main branches that you kind of focus on, and all of the different characters have different specialties that are available to them, and you can kind of put some over here, put some over there, but I've noticed it actually really helps to commit to a certain specialty. It just allows you to have access to far more power and skills that really correlate with each other. But as soon as you are done with your character, you find out that you're basically in a world where there is a demigod of sorts who's trying to open up a sealed prison, and in this sealed prison houses some ancient elven gods who have done some pretty horrible things. As you and your soon-to-be teammates are discussing what's happening and how to stop it, the city you're in is attacked by demons. You see, unlocking this prison also allowed a lot of demons to escape, and they're running rampant through the city, and this is where you and your friends go and try to stop this ritual. Just to be clear for a second, this prison is not like a physical prison, it's a different dimension where they're sealed. So ultimately, all you gotta do is stop this powerful being from performing this ritual. And as soon as you fight your way through the city, killing demon after demon, you're finally there, standing face to face with this super powerful being. You've tried a last ditch effort and you end up succeeding in stopping this ritual. And as luck would have it, you ended up incarcerating this super powerful being in that prison as well. Although unfortunately, he's able to contact you, basically through your dreams. And during the altercation, you're knocked unconscious, where you are now talking with this super powerful being, and he informs you that he was not trying to just release these elven gods. No, in fact, he was just trying to move them, and your influence ended up releasing the gods themselves. See, the dimension that they were trapped in had become too weak, and he was trying trying to move him into this new dimension where he is now imprisoned and cannot get out. So now this is on you and your team to track down these elven gods and imprison them. Now, if that seems very complicated and long-winded, I want to tell you I was speed running that. That's like just the first, 30 minutes of the game. And I know I did take far too long complaining about the hairstyle thing, but still, just to get the premise going of this game, there is quite a bit there, and it is both parts good and bad. Namely because this is just how the game tells the story, and not just that story, all of the stories, all of the quests, they all feel very long-winded, and in some ways it's cool because you want to know more, but in other ways, you kind of just get lost in the sauce after a while, and you might forget certain things, and they do throw a lot of information at you at once. Now, I am a Dragon Age fan, and have played all the other games, so I understood the references, but if you hadn't, you wouldn't know what, like, a Shadow Dragon was, or a Grey Warden, or certain towns, but they sort of expect you to already know this. And no, you don't have to have played the other games to play this one, but it really does help, because in so many ways, it feels like you're kind of starting halfway through. Like, your character is already known in this world before you start playing the game, and your character also knows things. So often they won't stop and explain like what a Grey Warden is or something like that. Now granted, if you had played the other games, this would be just fine, but to a newcomer it's not very welcoming, and I was really hoping that this game would be more of a, reintroduction into Dragon Age, because it has been like almost a decade since we've gotten the last game in the series, so it's been a while, and you forget things. I also have to say I don't really enjoy the flow of the storytelling. It seems sort of episodic, if you will. On the heels of like FF7 Rebirth, which I just got done playing, that game flows so effortlessly. It doesn't feel like you're on missions or something. It all feels like it's interconnected, and you can end up playing through the story so much faster than what you can in Dragon Age, just because everything almost feels like small sectioned off little stories, which again in some ways can be cool, but in other ways it just sort of makes the main story sort of drag on a little bit. And just opposed to that, you have the combat, which is fast-paced, action RPG style, with some skills mixed in that are relatively easy to use, but for the most part, you have 2 attacks, a dodge, and a guard, and that's basically your most important attacks. Again, the skills will become important, and they're easy to use and implement in your combat style, but it doesn't take a whole lot of practice to be good at the combat. It is just really fun as you do fight hordes of enemies, and while I do honestly enjoy the story, but it's the combat that had me glued to the game, and in fact extended many of my play sessions far longer than I wanted them to be. I was just having fun, grinding, leveling up, seeing what skills I could open up, seeing what loot I could find, which was, in my opinion, also kind of a dark subject, because the loot isn't great in this game. Outside of a few specific items, once you get to a certain point, you're just upgrading your current equipment, which I guess for some people is cool. For me, I always get excited when I see a big chest, open it up, and get some new weapon to play with, but that again doesn't really happen too much in the game. There are some moments, don't get me wrong, it's just not as often as I would like. Another thing that I really didn't love about the game is the art style. I don't know why they went this direction. It's just sort of cartoony and distracting once you notice it. When I first started playing, I didn't even notice that there was this different art style, and then as I got into some of the cutscenes, noticed a little bit more, I should say. I was like, oh, that doesn't look great. I don't love that. They should have made it more realistic. It just wouldn't have been so distracting, but you do get used to it after a while. It's just when you first notice it, you kind of can't stop noticing it for a little while. The performance of the game, it plays well. I never had any crashes, never had any issues. Again, I played this on the PS5 through my PlayStation Portal, hardwired of course, and everything ran very smoothly. And in this day and age, that's a win for a video game. When we get a game that doesn't crash or doesn't have horrible performance, then great, you just made Game of the Year. But no, it is a really good game. If you love the series, I think you're really gonna like it. It just builds upon what was already there and cemented in the series. If you've never played it, it's not the best one to jump in on, but it is still good. Like if you find it on sale or something like that and you want to get in on it, or you just want the latest and greatest. And I think a majority of RPG fans are going to enjoy it. Even if you have to take a little bit of extra time to learn about the world of Dragon Age, you're still going to be impressed with the skill tree and how you can customize the combat of your character. Some of the massive boss fights are just incredibly fun to play. Also, many of the towns are very story rich. There's a lot to learn just by doing simple side quests, talking to your teammates, interacting with them and NPCs. There's a lot to the game. It is a very content-heavy title, and really appreciate that, especially for the price, which is, of course, that $70 price tag. But anyway, for me, I would recommend checking it out, especially if you're into RPGs, especially action RPGs. It is a really good one. It's not as good as I wanted it to be, if I'm being honest. As a big fan of the Dragon Age series, I feel like this one was just okay. Yeah, I was nervous that it was gonna bomb because that might have been the death of Dragon Age. I don't think it's bombed. I think it is better than average. If you were to ask me what grade would I give it, or what letter score or number score, number score I'd give it, I would probably give it a solid 7.5 out of 10. And I would almost, if they had like free DLC or something, it would go to an 8 out of 10. But yeah, it's a good game. It's well worth your time, especially if you're a big RPG fanatic like I am, or you love the series. Anyway, let me know what your thoughts are down below. Is this a game you're interested in picking up? Is this one that you played? Is this one that you've never heard of? Do you not like RPGs? Do you love RPGs? Anything and everything down in the comment section down below is much appreciated. I love each and every one of you guys. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.